Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we're going to talk about holding up a mirror to the United States and how that works. You know, when you're looking at events in other countries or actions that other countries take, a lot of times we view it through this cartoon villain lens, when a more appropriate lens would be a mirror. Because a lot of times the actions are very similar to actions that the United States undertakes. Actions that we condemn other countries for taking, they're very much what the U.S. does on the international scene. A good example of this was Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And if you were watching the coverage in the beginning, there were a number of videos where I talked about that, holding up a mirror and seeing the reflection and us not liking it. Now, these videos, I tried to make them as subtle as possible. To me, this is one of those things, if you just hammer it in, then it won't really be acknowledged. This is one of those things that the truth isn't told, it's realized. So there was a lot of subtlety to it. But I talked about that mirror image a whole lot. And I agonized over every point that I was going to make when I was sitting there thinking about how to do the videos. Trying to find the right ones that would reach and resonate, but wouldn't be too overt, you know. And I had to do that because it's not like the people behind the U.S. actions would ever just come out and admit it, right? I mean, we live in an echo chamber inside of our country. Most countries are like that. And because of the propaganda and the way we view other nations, they have no need to just come out and say that it is a mirror image. You can't count on that. That would never happen. So last night, footage surfaced of former President George W. Bush, in which he said, "The decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of Iraq, I mean Ukraine." So what he said, I do believe that people might call that a Freudian slip. Probably the most poignant Freudian slip in American history. That mirror image, you're certainly going to see that clip played today. And the mirror image that it shows, it's pronounced. And it's also something that might help people realize how much of the Russian framing is propaganda. Because in the modern world, manufacturing consent for wars, it's the same playbook for every country. So the aggressing country, the invading country, they have to invade that other country because there's that really bad group. It's not all of the country, but they're there. And the invading country has to get rid of them. Are we talking about Iraq or Ukraine? Both. You know what? They might have weapons of mass destruction. They might have stuff they're not supposed to have. Is it Iraq or Ukraine? Those elections, they're not real. Iraq or Ukraine. You know what? If we don't act, they might invade somewhere else. Is it Iraq or Ukraine? Now, I'm not actually comparing the situations. They were very different. I'm not comparing Zelensky and Hussein. But I'm trying to point out that the framing, what gets sold through the propaganda in that little echo chamber, it's pretty much always the same. It's the same stories. It's the same justifications, minor tweaks. And they use them because it works. That's how they can manufacture consent. The situations were different, but the stories weren't. And the reason the stories weren't is because they work. When you're talking about pretexts for war, you have to remember that they're pretexts. Whether or not it's true, that doesn't even factor into it. Truth is always the first casualty of war. George Bush saying this offhandedly, correcting himself immediately, and then being like, look, I'm 75. It hopefully held that mirror image up. His mistake, probably far more effective than any video that I could put together. So when you see that today, maybe share it. Maybe make sure other people see it. Because again, this isn't something that you can just hammer into people. The propaganda is too thick. They have to realize it on their own. And if you can put that video in front of them, they might do it. It won't change what happened in Iraq. Won't change what's happening in Ukraine. But it might change the next one. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.